Well, a set of new laws to lower Louisiana's sky-high incarceration rate took effect on November 1st. And the first wave of former inmates are adjusting to life outside of prison. But thousands of others remain locked up, untouched by those new guidelines.
Among those are nearly 5,000 inmates serving life without parole. Some are convicted killers, but hundreds of others committed no violent crimes, leaving friends and family members frustrated by the system and desperate for hope. Investigative reporter Mike-Perlstein looks at one such case in a series we're calling Locked Away for Life.
Jamal Cox was 29 years old, and St. Tammany Parish deputies say he fled from them on a dirt bike. The chase began at this intersection. It lasted less than 10 seconds. It ended in this open field. Deputies say Cox jumped this fence, ducking into his family's Slidell home. Cox was peacefully arrested inside.
It was just so petty.
Rachel Yazbek was Cox's appeals attorney. She appealed not based on his conviction, but because of what happened when he was sentenced.
It just didn't make sense to none of us. It really didn't.
Cox had 2 prior felony convictions. He got probation for simple burglary when he was 19. A decade later, he got probation again after pleading guilty to illegal use of a firearm.
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because you're just helpless.
Prosecutors used those 2 prior convictions to have Cox sentenced under Louisiana's multiple offender law. Instead of facing the 2-year maximum sentence for aggravated flight, Judge William Crain sentenced him to life without parole.
My heart hurts. It really hurts. He has family that still needs him.
Childhood friend Aisha Smith remembers getting the news from Cox's then 14-year-old son.
I said, well, when is he coming home? Then his voice cracked. Then he said, he not. And I said, what do you mean he not? What does that mean? And he said, they gave him life. And I said, life?
Cox's mother, Lorraine, was devastated.
How do you make a life sentence out of that? How do you say you will never see freedom again? You will never see your mother again?
Court records show that Cox turned down a plea deal of 5 years in prison. He said he didn't think a 2-block chase on a dirt bike was worth 5 years, and that his public defender didn't explain a critical date on the calendar. To be sentenced as a multiple offender, the crimes must be less than 10 years apart. Cox said he didn't realize that his second conviction, the gun case, was 7 days from being outside of that limit.
2 years versus life.
This is a call from an offender at a Louisiana Department of Corrections facility.
We spoke to Cox by phone from Angola State Prison, where he has earned his GED, became a master furniture maker, and now tutors other inmates as a Class A trustee, a status reserved for inmates with clean disciplinary records. How does that feel, that trapped feeling, having a life without parole?
Like a death sentence, almost like being caged. It's just not living, not for a human being. For something that lasted, what was it, no more than 6 seconds, I've been sentenced to death. That's what it feels like.
He committed no murder. He committed no rape. He sold no drugs.
You take a person from us that just don't deserve this. My brother never had a drug charge. He never had a violent crime. He never hurt anybody.
Walter Reed, the district attorney at the time of Cox's case, is no longer in office. Judge Crain now sits on the First Circuit Court of Appeal, the court that denied Cox's appeal in 2012. The appellate panel agreed with Crain that the sentence was not excessive, citing additional misdemeanors including DWI, driving with a suspended license, and open container. The current DA, Warren Montgomery, refused to talk about the case.
What we're really seeing is a disparity between what the law imposes and what we think is actually right and morally correct.
Loyola law professor Andrea Armstrong advocated for the sweeping new reforms adopted by the legislature to lower Louisiana's incarceration rate, the highest in the nation. The changes included the multiple offender law, reducing the time window between felonies from 10 years to 5. Under the new law, Cox would be free today, but the law is not retroactive.
It raises that question of should he really be back there?
Pretty much that's our reality right there, that most likely going to die right here if nothing is done.
Thank you for using Securus. Goodbye.
Mike-Perlstein, Eyewitness News.
Unless there's a change in the law or a successful appeal, the only chance for Cox to get released is a commutation of his sentence by the Louisiana Pardon Board. He's not eligible to apply for a commutation until he serves 15 years in prison. Cox, now 40 years old, has served 7.